Well, hello, my friends in the Antelope Valley. I'm going to do a special podcast with Warner Brothers and the Antelope Valley, the connections, and there's quite a few of them. It's amazing how many there are when you think about it. But the first thing I'm going to mention is, I worked on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We did a lot of filming out here. Sarah liked it out here, Sarah Michelle Gellar. And we were up at Lake LA quite a bit. We even shot a episode up at the castle because of my connection with that and being a location scout on the show. We shot an episode up there, which was cool. Blazing Saddles was shot out here. That's a Warner Brothers production. Warner Brothers distributed Buffy the Vampire Slayer because that was a television from the television division. George Stevens, the famous director that directed Giant with James Dean and Elizabeth Taylor, died in Lancaster, staying here, which is pretty crazy. No, I mean, that guy was famous. I did a couple stories on that in, the group there, the group on Facebook. And I'll remind you guys of it. I have some audio of when I did that story about I produced a production guide for the Antelope Valley years ago called the Desert Sierra Film Guide. And, not just myself, I had, my partners and I did it. We had an agency working with us, but, we did stories every time. It came out every 2 years, and it was a production guide like at LA 411. That's what they use for the film industry to get whatever they need. Well, we did one for the Antelope Valley, and it came out every 2 years, and all the film locations and anything you needed to know about film in the Antelope Valley. And we did stories of local celebrities. I was good friends with Jack Palance, mostly with his son Cody. That's how I got to know Jack, through Cody. After Cody passed, we spent a lot of time together. He worked with George Stevens on the movie Shane. So there's another connection. I can go on and on and on. I'm proud of working for Warner Brothers. I'm proud of the Antelope Valley, and I hope you guys subscribe to this podcast. I need you guys to follow me. I just launched this thing. I want it to be a success. I'll be doing a lot of podcast and stuff about the Antelope Valley and film. So, so I want you all to subscribe to this. Well, you have to subscribe to get on it to see the show. So, to see this show. So if you're watching this, then you probably already have, got it, and you're going to follow me. So I hope that's how it works out. So anyway, once again, Jack Palance, was in Shane. That was a Paramount. Unfortunately, that wasn't Warner Brothers. That was Paramount, but Giant was Warner Brothers. And James Dean, when it first happened, I asked Jack, when I first found out about George Stevens, I asked Jack Palance, and I said, Jack, how do you knew George Stevens? He said, yeah, I knew him. And I said, did you know he died in Lancaster? He said, no, I didn't know that. And I said, what do you suppose happened? He says, why don't you ask his son? I go, ask his son. He goes, I have his phone number, George Stevens Jr. So Jack gave me his phone number, and I called George Stevens' office, and his secretary, Dottie, of course, screening the calls. Hi, is George in? And she says, who's calling? I said, oh, this is Pat. Does he know you? And I said, well, Jack Palance gave me his phone number to call him. And of course, then he took my call, and he gets on the phone. How is Jack? And I said, he's good. And he said, I remember on the set of Giant on the set of Shane, when I was there with my father, and I would watch him, and he was always practicing that gun slinging, and and we talked for a long time. And I said, well, I like to do a story about your father. And we ended up doing the story together in my production guide. And the first thing he did was send me a photo. He took it off his wall, FedExed it to me. I had it the next day. George Stevens Jr., his son, the one that I got to know, and Elizabeth Taylor and James Dean on the set of Giant. He says, and if you need, anything else, any other pictures. And we did this story about his dad and his career in the Antelope Valley and him dying here. Yeah. And Jack even commented on it. So I thought it would be a good podcast, to do. I've had ties with Warner Brothers on and off. I worked on Space Cowboys as a location scout, and I did all the scouting for the locations out here in the Antelope Valley. I set up the locations for the SR-71s out at the Sky Park. And, the right stuff. That's where it all started. Dave Chisholm invited me out. He was working on the show, and he invited me over for dinner. That's a joke in the film industry. I'll buy dinner. Come on, see me. I'll buy you dinner because they have the caterers. So anyway, when we went out there and we sat down, I sat down and watched all the action going on and stuff. I was sold. I said, "This is what I want to do," and here I am. And that's just pretty much what it's all about. I mean, it's about the Antelope Valley and its history, and it has a pretty good history. In Hollywood, they called this the backlot. It's Hollywood's backlot out here. We have the movie locations, Club Ed's. We have the Four Aces, which I was involved with when they built that. Club Ed's is a great story. That was a Dennis Hopper movie called Eye of the Storm. They built that set specifically for the movie, and when it was time to strike the set, they didn't strike it because they have a choice. You want to strike it, they'll strike it. If you want to leave it, they'll leave it. So what happened was, and one of the guy that did, I believe he was the guy that ran the art department or whatever, construction department on this film. It was a German production. So he was the one that bought the property out there, and his name was Heinz Legler, and then Jan Peter that designed the location, he didn't know anything about it. And one day he's in Germany watching, and here comes this, design of this location still going. He had no idea they didn't strike the set. He designed it. And, he was kind of pissed off that, Heinz didn't tell him. So John got a hold of me, and we built another location over on Avenue Q and 145th called the Four Aces, to kind of compete with Heinz, and then eventually we all worked together. But it was kind of an interesting story. So, and you'll see these locations. There's not a day that goes by that you're on social media or television or watching it that you see these locations. They're quite popular. So I can go on and on and on, of course. That's why I'm doing this podcast. So I'm going to go ahead and put together, some of those parts that I was telling you about with the interview of the George Stevens, Shane, the thing I did, the video I did on Shane. I'm going to put some clips from Blazing Saddles when I was out there. I rode my bike out there one day. I was going to Cal City to see some friends, and I did a video out there, so I'll post that. But I'm serious. I want you guys to really get involved with this podcast because it's a part of the Antelope Valley. I've been here my whole life, 68 years. That makes me an old timer, I mean, that puts me, there. I mean, with a lot of you. I mean, a lot of you are even older than me. You've been here longer, I mean, you remember me. I mean, Rick Nolte's and all the people I see on the groups, that, Sosby, everybody that stays in contact with me. I remember all of you, it's a part of our life. I'm glad I never left here. This is my home. It used to piss me off. My mother hated it here. And when she would badmouth it, and I get mad at her. Oh, I hate this place. Well, then leave. I hate to say that, but she did finally, but went to Arizona. But I mean, this is my hometown. Don't sit there and badmouth it. But she didn't like it here. She hated the desert, so I can't help that. That was my mother. My dad loved it here, of course. And, he died here. So anyway, putting out the family laundry. So, but most of you know that anyway. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to put that out. So follow me, do that. It's important. And, this podcast, I'm going to put it out on the thing and, so other people can see it too. Yeah. I'm not just doing this for you guys. I'm doing it on the whole network. So anyway, okay, guys, take care. And I hope you enjoy this. So I'll talk to you soon. And we're going to still be doing that. I got a hold of Dave. We're going to still be doing that Pancho Barnes story. So we got that. We've already got that in the works, So anyway, au revoir.
Sometimes the most serendipitous conversations spark extraordinary journeys. My adventure began with a simple act of curiosity, discovering that George Stevens, a distinguished filmmaker, had passed away in my hometown of Lancaster, California. This revelation came while doing homework with my daughter browsing through the Britannica, where the mention of George Stevens, a native of Oakland, California, who died in Lancaster, caught my eye. This trivia intrigued me, especially knowing my connection with Jack Palance, a cinematic legend who had worked with Stevens on the iconic film Shane. One day I seized the opportunity to ask Jack, "Did you know George Stevens died in Lancaster?" His surprise mirrored my own, leading to a deeper conversation about Stevens' unexpected link to Lancaster. Jack's advice was as simple as it was astonishing. "Why don't you call his son?" He then shared George Stevens Jr.'s contact information with me. When I reached out to George Stevens Jr.'s office in Washington, D.C., his secretary Dottie initially screened my call. However, mentioning Jack Palance was the key that opened the door. George Jr. quickly got on the line and said, "How is Jack?" Eager to reminisce meeting Jack on the set of Shane and Jack's legendary gunslinging practice sessions. As the publisher of the Desert Sierra Film Guide, these behind-the-scenes stories were my passion. Our conversation evolved into a discussion about featuring George Stevens in the film guide. Coincidentally, Warner Brothers was commemorating what would have been his 100th birthday with the re-release of Giant. George Jr.'s enthusiasm for collaborating was offering me access to invaluable resources from the American Film Institute. The real astonishment arrived the following day, a FedEx package containing a priceless photograph of George Stevens Jr. with Elizabeth Taylor, his father George Stevens, and James Dean on the set of Giant. This image wasn't merely historical. It symbolized the enduring legacy and the interconnectedness of Hollywood. Well, hello, my friends at Warner Brothers Discovery. How are you today? I was on a road trip, and I was coming by this location. I thought you'd appreciate this.
He rode a blazing saddle. He wore a shining star. His job to offer battle to bad men near and far. He conquered fear and he conquered hate. He turned dark night into day. He made his blazing saddle a torch to light the way. When outlaws ruled the West and fear filled the land, a cry went up for a man with guts to take the West in hand. They needed a man who was brave and true, with justice for all as his aim. Then out of the sun rode a man with a gun, and Bart was his name. Yes, Bart was his name. He rode a blazing saddle, he wore a shining star. His job to offer battle to bad men near and far. He conquered fear and he conquered hate. He turned dark night into day. He made his blazing saddle a torch to light the way.
Well, I just thought you guys would appreciate that. Like I said, I'm on a road trip. I'm heading out to Newberry Springs and to see some friends at the Baghdad Cafe. I'll be back on Monday, so I'll talk to you then. Have a good weekend.
Welcome to Premiere Night on the WB's New Tuesday. The season premiere of Angel is just 1 hour away. But first...
I've changed a lot since I first became the Slayer. And I'm still changing.
She was chosen to lead the fight against the forces of darkness.
Do you think it's coincidence you're being here?
Oh, why can't you people just leave me alone?
Because you are the Slayer.
With the help of allies and the sacrifices made by friends, Buffy Summers has answered her destiny as the protector of the night.
To each generation, a Slayer is born. One girl in all the world, a chosen one born with a
Strength and skill to hunt the vampires.
But the path of the chosen one is a long initiation.
I am destruction, absolute, alone, Slayer, first.
Ever since we did that spell where we called on the first Slayer, I've changed a lot.
Tonight, destiny will bring Buffy face to face with the greatest vampire of all.
Do you know what a Slayer is?
Do you? Do not fight. I can feel your hunger.
Buffy will begin to unlock the legacy she has yet to fully understand.
You think you know what you are, what's to come? You haven't even begun.
Buffy meets Dracula. And now, the WB presents the season premiere of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, followed by the season premiere of Angel.